This is the Internet Court of Truth. The way it works is a plaintiff, in this case it's going to be me, is asserting that something is true or a lie, and then gives his case for why he believes it. And the jurors, who are largely anonymous, can dissect the plaintiff's dissection. What's interesting is the plaintiff learns something. The real value is to the plaintiff for this, and then everybody sees that there's no two people that are quite the same in terms of truths and lies. So in this particular trial, it's called Cheating and Deception book. And this is a book that I stumbled across. Evidently, I stumbled across it in 2023. I had been looking since 2017 or 2018 for literature on cheating and lying and deception, and basically had found no real literature in the sense of scholarly literature that really was serious. Then I stumbled across this book and I was proven wrong. There was a book, and the book is called Cheating and Deception by, his name is John Bowyer Bell. And I'll give you a little bit of information about him. He wrote this book, Cheating and Deception, published in 1991. And he was born in 1931 from the South, went to Washington Lee University in Virginia, studied war essentially. He had gotten a BA, and after some number of years, he decided to go back to school, and he got his doctorate at Duke in 1958. But he continued the study of wars and how people deceived each other in wars and so forth and so on. And so his real publications and what he's famous for is that kind of stuff. He was good enough that apparently he taught at MIT, Harvard, and the Trinity School in Manhattan. Then he died in 2003. But this book called Cheating and Deception, which is an amazing book, is his legacy, so to speak. I was amazed how good it was. So I wished when I was writing my book on lying that I'd known about this. I really did research and look for anybody who'd written anything on the subject of lying. And I suspected that what was going on was that if a graduate student ever came to me and said, I want to do my PhD thesis on lying, I guarantee you the first thing I would have said to him was, go find another topic that will destroy your career. I don't care what you say about lying or what you do with it, but you will never get a job. I joke about that, but I've told that to numbers of other professors and so forth. And everybody agrees with me. Anybody who came in and said they want to do their PhD on cheating and deception is either asked to leave the school or don't do it, go find another topic. You won't get tenure doing that. It's very likely the reason that there is no literature. It's amazing to think there's no literature, but there's no literature. This is serious scholarship, serious scientific literature, not just shallow stuff. I use the word shallow advisedly. He was an artist, and this is one of his more famous paintings. And now you can see where he got cheating and deception. Here he is hiding the truth somehow in a painting that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is something of the nature of this guy. Just interesting. In this trial, what he did in the book, which stunned me, was he divided cheating and deception into 6 categories. which I believe are complete and comprehensive. In other words, I haven't really found a way to find some seventh category. In other words, it's amazing that he was able to do this. To me, it was amazing. I want to give y'all, and I realized that I was giving y'all a hard time because the book is relatively hard to get a hold of. Shane found a good way to get a hold of it. I've got the Kindle here. What I want to do is show you, here's his theory. It basically says that there's two types of cheating, lying, and deception. One involves hiding, which is not telling the truth. The other one is showing, which is telling the truth, but not telling the real truth. Showing is when somebody's showing in order to deceive you, they're telling you the truth. If you want to verify that this is factual, it turns out to be completely factual as far as you can tell. And hiding is where you're hiding the truth with a lie, with something that's not true. Masking the truth is sort of the default meaning of a lie that people have, a simple meaning, which is basically, it ain't true. So if George Washington had said, I did not cut down the cherry tree, that would be masking the truth. Repackaging the truth is another way of hiding the truth by simply putting it in a different context than the one it actually happened. And the dazzling or confounding the truth is really what Trump does when he said he won the election. It's hiding and cheating with an impossible dazzle. Everybody knows that it's not true, but they don't know what to do because they think it either must be really actually true, even though they probably don't believe it. It's so crazy that Bowyer Bell called it dazzling. What's interesting is that this concept of dazzling in order to deceive, a lot of people think this is relatively new. His book is really a history that goes back thousands of years. You can go back for the longest time and see them being used. Showing is where you are actually telling the truth. And mimicking is when something that shows is entirely true but is not. So, for example, showing the truth could be something like, I'm just making this up off the top of my head, is you actually show the horse in the lead crossing the finish line in front of the other horses for the race that was yesterday at 3 p.m. But the actual race that was at 3 p.m. yesterday, that horse did not win. And they were mimicking the truth by showing the truth, because the horse did win, but it was not for that 3 p.m. one. Okay. It was at some prior time. Inventing the truth when only part is offered is true in a larger deceit. And then decoying, which is a kind of version of dazzling, where the objective is to show something true that shifts attention to an apparent truth and away from a true cheat. And decoying is used in war all the time, where you shift the attention of your enemy to something where he thinks you're going to be charging using the northern route, when in fact you're charging using the southern route. That's decoying. And you aren't going to do the northern route, so it's showing you're being decoyed to believe it's the real one. This is the 6 things. I want to show you where in the book you can find this stuff. Here are the 6 types. And you'll see in this that the book is all about troops and people at war and so forth. Or one of the really key elements here is he's got this notion of cares. He says is that once one or more of the six categories has been selected consciously or unconsciously as to how you're going to cheat. Most cheating has been done without theoretical knowledge of the six cheating categories. The planner selects one or more appropriate bits from an infinite characteristic spectrum. This is the findings we've had in computational cognitive neuroscience. There's basically an uncountably finite, but essentially infinite number of ways that people can lie or deceive other people because it's at the core of predication. Anything can be a lie, anything can be truth in the right predication context. When he said infinite characteristic spectrum, he caught my attention. Of course, he died, so I can't tell him I wish you hadn't used the word carks, but he calls them the carks of cheating. The most cost-effective normal practice would use as few carks or cares as possible. This is probably a typo. For example, in mimicking for military purpose, a hat on a stick to draw fire usually uses only one care to the effect of an entire soldier. You make somebody believe there's a soldier there when there isn't. The opposite extreme, other assets, an identical twin, may allow the use of all but one characteristic or cark, in this case, individuality at no additional cost. In other words, what he's saying is what he's calling this characteristic spectrum is really most fundamentally predications. There's basically an infinite number of them, which is what we know from natural language. You wind up choosing the carks, the predications you want to be the deceits. And so then you have masking, things like which may range from a few splashes of paint to the advanced technology needed to make a Poseidon invisible missile or a stealth aircraft undetectable by Soviet radar. Repackaging a few bits of uniform are sufficient to repackage a person, but in Burbank, California during World War II, a great many carks were needed to turn the Lockheed Vega plant into an apparent suburb when seen from the air. In other words, there was a lot of hiding that had to happen to convince the Japanese that the Lockheed Vega plant was just a suburb of Los Angeles. Dazzling, a single aspect of an object may be altered or a new aspect incorporated in order to confound. And here I won the election. Single aspect of the object may be altered. Mimicking, which is a form of showing, a Canadian family who used a single cark of the deceased man's thumb, is an ideal example of cost effectiveness of mimicking. Cloud of dust can stand for an army or a trumpet call for a charge. And this is showing the trumpet call is real, the cloud of dust is real, but what they really stand for is deceit. Inventing category usually takes a little more effort than mimicking, since something entirely false must be created by a combination of carks. Thus, during World War II, the British created a live double for General Montgomery, which I didn't know about. Actually, I did know about that. That's interesting. This was mimicking, but the invented man who never was a considerably more troublesome ruse and also more elegant. The end result, the effect of inventing, has much to offer in that the fake Picasso or Corot is more likely to create the illusion of the real if it does not mimic an existing painting, but only a real style of painting, more characteristic of the real work. Then the last one is decoying. Here's a simple look left and run right option that might be elaborated into an elegant military strategy of indirect approach, which simply displays a series of options. This is one of these books that you read and you really wish you could talk to the author, because I would love to have been able to talk to him. And I would have substituted the word predication for cark and tried to talk him into changing it. That's basically the argument. And I can't find, and maybe somebody can find something where these 6 categories of cheating and deceit aren't complete. Now, he says in this, and I just heard him say it, that there are these carks, there are these predications can get shared. So you can have one of these things mainly can be, let's say, mimicking, and then you can have along with the mimicking can be some other subsidiary things, some of which may be a little bit of hiding, a little bit of masking. In other words, what he's arguing is that when the guy's intending to deceive, he's intending to do one of these things. And then the way he composes it out of the carks it can turn into a combination of these things, which is, I think, correct. I believe that this is a really good book. On the light side, at the very end of his book, this is literally the last words in his book. It's basically the summary of the book. Last paragraph. The first paragraph is the theory of types, which is what I've just gone over. But the rest is to remember. So this is the last chapter. It's a very short chapter. Wandering about, a head full of payoffs and patterns, characteristics of deceit, dazzling and decoying, and the odd deception loop, which is I didn't go into, but you can imagine what that is. Remember, it's no better to be cheated than to cheat, and less fun, which is what he argues is why people cheat. It's no better to be cheated than to cheat. And cheating is okay, but it's not as much fun to be cheated as it is to cheat, which is interesting. No one promised life would be fair. Believers in the free lunch suffer from indigestion. Then dopo il fatto il consiglio non vale Machiavelli. After the fact, advice is useless. Why didn't somebody tell me what the truth was? Unfortunately, in cheating, the mind prepared to be cheated is sure to be cheated, but not every time. In other words, getting cheated is inescapable. You will be cheated, and people will succeed in their lives, and they will succeed in deceiving you. There may be a cat in the bag, which is the old magician thing. When he shows you the bag and there's no cat in there and he closes it, there may be a cat in the bag. Nature may not cheat, but man does. I'm sorry?
No, I was just going to say, or in the hat.
Yeah, or in the hat. And I don't know why I used bag, because he wrote this in when he shouldn't have said, he should have said the hat.
Yeah.
I know this book did not sell. I claim innocent when I researched trying to find some serious work on this, and I couldn't find it. I claim innocence because this is such an obscure book. And you've already seen some of the typos that are in it. The cark cares typo was a typo. There may be a cat in the hat. Nature may not cheat, but man does. To be human is to cheat and be cheated. He actually has examples of nature cheating and deception in nature in his book. And so this was like, I think, dogs and cats cheat. I think I will go with him on this in the sense that it's in the nature of natural language that gives humans the ability to basically out-cheat any other animal on the face of the planet, out-deceive anything living. The clever mind, now this is interesting, the clever mind, prepared or not, can be cheated more easily than the simple. And this comes from the war studies he's done. So what in war, the guys who carefully figure out that the people that they're dealing with are really smart can usually be beaten more easily because they know these people are really smart. And so they figure out ways to deceive them and basically conquer them, which is crazy. The avaricious mind will cheat itself. If you're greedy, you'll buy into anything. The wise mind, here prepared, taking consiglio, will at least know the rules of the game. In other words, at least you know this is the way it is. Then his last 7 words is good luck. You might just need it. That's his last words to us, which I find incredibly interesting. This was a very interesting guy, and this is a self-portrait. He was a painter. Most of his paintings are what I call garbage. They're just abstract, serious abstract. But this one was not. So he showed that he could actually paint in this one. So that's it. If you ever do get the book, it's really around page 66, a few pages before and a few pages after, where he goes into the theory and really outlines his theory. And I should have found some way to point y'all at that. Argument is that it is the truth. I actually like my taxonomy better than his for the verdicts, because his do not have clear answers. So there are a lot of cases where you're looking at something that's a lie, and it's really a combination of these 6 things in some kind of a weird combination. This is this thing he called carks, or characteristics. Is it the truth? I said, yes. Is it the whole truth? I've tried to find things that are cheats and deception that don't fit into one of these patterns, and I can't find them. So and it's a self-contained system, so it's not bad. Is it nothing but the truth? I said, yes. What's the deceit? I said, there is no deceit from me about me saying this, that it provides a way to categorize any human deceit or lie. Is it intended? I'm sure he intended it. You saw a little bit of his text. This was the main purpose of the book, was these 6 things. And early on in the book, he's laid them out. And then the remaining 200 pages of the book, he's giving historical example after historical example after historical example of how these things have actually been done. What's the motivation behind it? It's to be informative. I think this is socially acceptable, and I'm so happy to see that somebody actually did what this guy did. I've really not encountered this anywhere else, anything quite like it. What label will improve the social acceptability of the truth or lie? I said no label needed. Let me go through the jurors and get everybody 20 to 30-second summary of their verdict. Juror 1.
I'm juror 1. I agree with your verdicts. I haven't read the book, obviously, but there's a lot of information there. And I do think, especially in today's world, the truth is often displayed as with decoys. And so it's confusing to know if it's the truth or not. But I agree with it. And I think it was very informative. And I think it's a good case for truth court.
Thanks. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I just wish I'd come across this book back in 2018, because then it would be a more part of what I've been trying to pull together. I still can't remember exactly how I found it. I know that it was some kind of random, just stumbled across it. Juror two.
That's me. I have to say that I agree and piggyback off of your one. This is an awesome book, I feel like, to help with Truth Court because it does have quite a bit of information in it and stuff. And whenever you were going through some of the things on the book, like the cat in the bag and stuff like that, those are some pretty comical things, which, in my opinion, someone who does do a lot of lying, they will try to throw things in that are comical to try to switch things up on people. I've had that experience dealing with people, but I agree with you, and I really enjoyed this one today.
So one of his chapters in the book, which I didn't go over time, is magician tricks. He's got a whole chapter on it.
Oh, I'm gonna have to read that.
And what the mechanisms of deception are there. And of course, one of the things he says, and I'm sure everybody's heard about this one, is magicians generally don't try to hide things. They do things in plain sight, and they just cause your attention to go somewhere else. He studied it. There's a lot of chapters of the book. A typical chapter may be 8 pages or something, but he studied it where he's gone in and he's laying out how magicians do their, and it's really interesting because that's a case where you're entertained. One of the things he said about magician tricks was they're not fun unless you are entertained, unless you're fooled. He says, if you're fooled, the magician tricks are fun. If you're not fooled, the magician tricks are not fun. So the deceit has to succeed for you to be happy, which I thought was cool. So juror three.
Hey, I don't know. I don't agree with. I haven't read the book, so I just say I have a broad I don't know, but it left me with more questions than anything. Like, why is the study on cheating and deception so controversial? You mentioned that earlier.
Oh, so the reason is, it was in a specific context. The context is if you got a PhD in it or you wanted to become a world expert in it or something like this. I'll give you the reason. One of my closest associates over at Carnegie Mellon, Marcel Just. Marcel's from Montreal. He's a French Canadian. But he went to Stanford. And Marcel is one of the best experimentalists in cognitive science in the world by far. Just to give you an idea of how well respected. He has 3 friggin' MRI machines, fMRI machines. Each of those is $10 million each. Underground, it's Carnegie Mellon. He runs them pretty much all the time with studies looking at brain computation. That's Marcel. So I told Marcel that I was going to get interested in lying. And he said, don't. And I said, why? And his response, Shane, was, I never lie. And for me,
Love that.
I never lie either.
Yeah, me
But
neither.
that didn't mean that I hated people who studied lie. For him, so for example, he could not read my book before putting it down and coming back to me and saying, I wish you would never write a book like that.
Because he thinks he doesn't lie.
Oh, he knows he doesn't. Oh,
Yeah,
Marcel would never lie.
There's no such thing as an ethical lie.
He doesn't. No. Marcel's an experimental
white lie?
scientist.
I
No,
can't believe it.
he doesn't even know what. No,
But
if you
that's
knew what
just
he did.
precisely the person you can deceive, isn't it?
The reason is, Shane, is that the people, if you're trying to get tenure or something and you're studying lying, they don't want you to do that. They don't know why you would. They can't fathom it.
Why
Okay.
you would lie?
They think that because you're studying it, you must.
Oh,
You're trying to teach people how to lie.
Oh, I
Oh.
see.
And no, so they
Why
don't
would we have
want
to
you.
teach someone something that's innate?
I know You and I are on the same place on this, but unfortunately, a lot of academics are not. They think this is
But
terrible.
I can see how much further can you go with it. Have you not covered the whole ground? There isn't
The
anything
sky's
else
the
aside
limit,
from-
Andrew.
The sky's the limit. Unfortunately, here's a truth which is true, but any noun can predicate any other noun, period. How can that be? How can you make sense out of, I don't know, a clam predicating a dog?
Huh.
This dog's like a clam. How can you make sense of that? And just automatically make sense of it. It's stunning from a computational point of view, but a clam is not a dog. Okay.
I like the idea that this dog is like a clam. I really like that idea.
I just made it up.
I know that
You know?
sentence is wonderful to me. I wouldn't even ask you any questions about it. I'd be like, sounds good.
That's right. That's my whole point, is that you could literally just do this and people will just figure it out. They'll just instantaneously come up with the analogy or the metaphor or whatever. And it's very definite and it works. It always works. In any language, it works. So you can predicate anything with anything. And the brain can do that. How it does that is phenomenal and it's core to how it computes. The study of lies really begins to shine lights on this, on how it works. But we still don't exactly know how it works. We're getting closer. Okay. And by the way, there are fMRI studies, not from Marcel, but there are fMRI studies where people reading things and are watching how their brains compute things that they're reading, which are fiction and nonfiction and all kinds of, there's 100, 200 studies out there where people have thrown people into an MRI machine and asked them to read something out loud to themselves, and then watching with changes in the brain patterns and so forth and so on. Okay, so juror 4.
Yes, I wondered does Marcel have an avaricious mind?
In fact, he's probably one of the kindest non-avaricious people you would ever want to meet.
Oh, I thought he might be fooling himself saying he doesn't lie.
I know. No, he's
The great liar.
he is a true experimental scientist. He's one of these guys who tries something new and then sees what the results are, and then he documents them so that other people can replicate his results. And he has no theory. He doesn't wonder about how the brain thinks, which is all I do, theorist. He's an experimentalist. He will try anything to see what happens. And
I think that's what I am.
and then he publishes it. And he writes, a typical paper will be 50 pages for him.
Whoa. Okay, after your presentation, I would want to change my verdicts because I did not understand a lot of what was going on from the small part we got and from watching the YouTube.
It's sadly too late now, but don't worry about it because this will always come up again.
But I said, it made me think, how many times a day do we lie, cheat?
Yeah.
And we don't even know it. So
Yeah.
this is what I come to wonder. The ethics of deception is what it might be even more important.
That's the reason that I put in motivation as one of the verdict questions. He really, Bowyer, how do I pronounce his name? But Bell, because he's concerned, he's all involved in war and terrorism and so forth and so on. He really doesn't think much about motivation because it's just not, the motivations are apparent on why these people will try to deceive these other people. So there's really no discussion in any of stuff about motivation, which is often is not the thing that you really want to question, was why the person was mimicking. He really doesn't go into the why. They're pretty apparent why they're deceiving, why the people are deceiving other people and so forth and so on. So it's an interesting thing. I don't remember anything in the book where he's gone into things like motivation and intent. as a characteristic of a,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So juror 5.
Yeah, Juror 5, yeah, that's me. I'd just like to say that I used to have a dog, a collie, that was very energetic, worked like mad. When it didn't want to do something, it would limp, hold up its paw. And if I would say, okay, though, then it would walk normally back to its bed, lie down. So you don't have to MRI humans. Try the clam or the dog.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway, this is a wonderful book. I thanks to Shane's link. Thanks, Shane. I got it and I've read it, and it's fantastic. All that stuff about the
Isn't
world,
it an amazing
aware
book?
of.
It's an amazing book.
And the way he shows how the idea of honor and character go undermined eventually by guile and strategy. It's really good.
It's really a good book.
Yeah,
You really wish he hadn't died. I guess he didn't die that early because he was born in 31.
yeah. But I like that quote from Chandler, who said that a whodunit was like sleight of hand. There was a similarity between the magician's sleight of hand and the whodunit story that he writes, which is good. But the thing that really stuck in my mind is the idea that it's a reality, that that it's a partnership. You can't deceive someone who's not on more or less on the same page as you.
Yeah.
So you have to be together. So you're the partnership. It's a congregative partnership.
That's interesting.
And you're playing with.
You're beginning to sound like your book, Andrew.
Uh-oh. Have you read that?
I read enough of it. I can't read the whole thing. That's too many pages.
But anyway,
That's
you've
great.
made me think about
Has too many
the
pages.
7th category. And isn't that, he doesn't talk about censorship, the removal of stuff, the Winston Smith, removing history, destroying the evidence that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's a part of a deception.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested in that idea. Eric Weinstein's always talking about this idea that there's a whole field of physics that was just removed. In the early 70s, 80s, people trying to study anti-gravity and stuff, all the physics related to that was just simply not available for perusal. That's that sort of censorship, removing something that it doesn't exist.
That's really good. Yeah, so I agree with that. I'm glad to hear that you like the book. So do you want to tell everybody the title of your book? I can't remember.
My book. The Cosmology of People.
Of people, Cosmology of People. Shane, you might find this one interesting.
Yeah, can you put it in the chat box for us, Andrew?
Andrew Kennedy.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah,
Thank
the second volume will be out in a few months.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I can't get through the first volume.
No, listen,
I'm
there's a
just
lot
now
more in it.
getting the first one.
Hey, Andrew, do you have one with less pages?
What? Say again?
Do you have a
one with less
3-page
pages?
summary of the entire book so he doesn't have to read the book?
We want an AI generated summary.
Bob was complaining that there's too many pages, so I'm hoping to get less pages.
No, listen, no. I have to declare in the book that it's all written by me and not by AI.
We're on juror 6.
Oh, juror 6. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Bob. Yeah, I think it was a lot of my verdicts also. I don't know because I just didn't read the book. But yeah, it's a fascinating case. At least the information you shared about the author as well, because I was also, some of my verdicts said I'd have to go and test these categories and do lies actually. But like you said, there's an infinite source of lies out there. And I'm also quite fascinated that there's not many books about this topic. But it also raised so many more questions. Lying to yourself, and can a lie fit into more than one category? That's also something that I was thinking about as well. But yeah, could we even include these categories in Internet Court of Truth? I was just thinking out loudly now. It's fascinating.
So I've actually
Fascinating.
thought about that, and the problem I've got is that there's the verdicts that we've got are really set up just to cause conversation. The 3 verdicts, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, basically is what he talks about. And so things like motivation he doesn't talk about, just assumes. In other words, in a different world, you could probably create an internet court of truth that just dealt with his questions, his 6 categories, and then tried to get people to. But then I think that would actually be hard because of these carks of his, because they mix things up. And It's kind of weird. So what he's done is weird. And again, the sad thing is he's not allowed to have conversations. He wrote a number of books. This was not on the reading list of anybody. Okay.
Mm.
So this book was basically just hidden.
Yeah.
I didn't read the book. Quite interesting because hearing from what everyone has to say about it, it's really interesting and I'm learning from it. But and hearing everyone's story and what they think about the book, I would like to learn more about this book and to read about it more and what I understand about this.
So in the
Yes.
YouTube at the bottom of in the text, the comment text, Shane found a link on archive.org, and you can basically, I think, read the book for free off of archive.org.
Is it in?
There's a link to the book. I think it's a free read.
It is. It's a free read. Yes.
It's a free read, and it's online and so forth, so anybody can read it. Juror 8.
Good evening, this is Juror 8. It's a fascinating case, and after your initial explanation of the 6 categories, very interesting. At the beginning, I said number 1, I think if it's true, I said I don't know, because deception and cheating can be hidden or masked or repaid for the benefit from it. In question number 2, I said if it's the whole truth, I said no. The reason why it's difficult to have a blueprint for all types of cheating, although the plaintiff believes that those 6 categories will include everything. That's why I said number 3 is nothing but the truth. I said I don't know, because cheating and deception really defined properly. It is actually attached to unpleasant connotations, and it's generally unacceptable by the general public. If it's a deceit, I said no deceit. The book should be taken as a general overview of a complex subject. I regard this subject, I didn't read the book, but I think I regard the subject as complex. Is it deceit? I said no deceit. Yes, the truth is intended, because the book actually is written on a lighter touch, and it actually compensates for the general reader as well as the specialist reader. Number 6, motivation behind the truth. I said it's informative. I said the book should provide many examples, and is actually also highly recommended to read, which is quite interesting. I would actually try and get a copy of the book as well. I said motivation behind it is informative. There are many examples given, and many people actually highly recommend we should actually read this book. Acceptable. The author actually, his work can be regarded, I said, as the scholarly summary of human lies and cheating and deception. Yeah, that's my verdict. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So this is good. So next week we're going to have a trial on a poem I wrote. I think you'll see the poem. The poem is very short.
Poetry next week.
Yeah. So this poetry next week. There's a last sentence in the poem that is either true or not true.
But Bob's gonna get the last laugh on us next week.
Yeah.
You said the last sentence in the poem. The last sentence in the poem is true or not?
Yeah, I think it. I don't know whether it's true.
I'm going to guess the last sentence right now. The dog is a clan. The dog is like a clan.
Yeah.
I literally made that up on the spot, Shane. So this is.
I'm gonna ask Rock if it's true or not.
You just told me that poets are liars.
Poets are always formed of lying. That's by definition.
I just want to say that I am glad that we're all back together.
Yeah, so this is good.
it's
So
been a long
there's still a bug or two in the code, but the next step we want to go through is things that are missing that we've tolerated so far. One of the things I'd like to be able to do is delete a case from my dashboard if I created a draft, for example.
Yeah,
I'd like to be able to delete a case so I don't ever have to see it again.
that would be great. I think I have a few
um,
of those on mine.
yeah, I mean, there are things like that where we get a list together. These are fixes to make the system more user friendly.
Yeah.
Okay, this sounds good. And then so we'll continue this next week. And I'm going to get this video out and I'll send it to everybody with another use case that we've gotten some sponsor interest in. And it's going to go out to everybody to see if we can find somebody with the right connection, who's the brother-in-law, the right person who, you never know. Okay, so this sounds great. So we'll see y'all.
Okay.
Have a great
All right.
day.
That-